Yo, what's good YouTube? This is Angry and today I got a new video for you guys, and basically today like I promised, I'm gonna show you guys what is cross-site scripting and XSS attacks. Right, so let's get to it. Right, so provide definitions and strategies today of how you can mitigate and how you can defend basically yourself against XSS attacks and how they're done. Right, so in real life cases scenario of cross-site scripting that happened, you have the British Airways example. 380,000 cars were skimmed. Fortnite, hackers capitalized on XSS in conjunction with an insecure single sign-on on eBay. This was around 2015 until 2017. Due to a mishandled URL, they basically kept injecting malicious code. All right, let's get to it. So we have three types of attacks. We have reflected XSS, stored XSS, and DOM-based XSS. So in reflected XSS, basically this is where the malicious script originates from the current HTTP request. So the effects of it, basically an attacker can control a script that is executed in the victim's browser. So they can typically compromise that user, and basically they can like act as they are the user, like using a cookie session, for example. And also they can add in like a payload, of course, to execute this. So I'm going to show you an example of this. All right, let me just get out of here. All right, and right now we're talking about reflected XSS. Right, so just open up your Windows machine and where you have your damn vulnerable web application. Right, make sure just to go into security, the vulnerable web application security, and set this to low. All right, because if it's set like at high or impossible, that would not work. All right, go to reflected. All right, so let's say for example this is a reflected cross-site scripting attack. So if we submit this, first of all we can see that we can manipulate this name. We can also view the page source and check out also the input itself. Right, so the input itself is not sanitized, as you can see over here, so we can manipulate that, for example. All right, so let's try and actually do that. Right, so let's try and inject a script. All right, so that's going to be just a simple alert, but we're going to be trying to alert the document.cookie. Right, even web testing tools have like a real long example of how you can actually hijack the user session using the session ID you're going to see right now. So basically, as you can see, give us the PHP session ID from the back end. And what we can do with this, basically, in like a real life scenario, you can use this PHP session ID and act as if you are the user that is logged in with this session ID, for example, using the cookies, right? So we can do that using burst speed, and I can do like another example of this, but today we're just talking about generally cross-site scripting attacks. Right, so let's get to the second type attack. You have stored type of attack. I'm going to show you a cool example that you can actually do as well over here. All right, so you can actually at the same time over here add script code to not the console, all right, to the message itself. All right, so that's pretty cool. So let's try and do that, but actually let me just show you how you can identify this first. All right, so let's add in a name. So you have test and test message, for example. All right, sign guestbook. Right, view the page source itself. Again, let's check out the code itself. So as you can see, again over here we have table, but inside that table we have inputs that are again not sanitized. All right, and also it has like a function over here that as well you could see and everything. Right, so let's try and add in like a script tag over here. So script alert Let's try and do that, for example. All right, just apologize 1 second, and let's add in test, for example. So yeah, as you could see, it alerted the page using that input, right? So that is an example of like a stored cross-site scripting attack, and that's pretty simple. Of course, you can, like in cross-site scripting, the stored cross-site scripting is basically more advanced than this. Basically, the malicious script is sourced from the website's database, and basically, like, of course, it's kind of like the reflected XSS is kind of like these type of attacks. These are usually called like persistent attacks or non-persistent attacks. In terms of persistent XSS attacks, the stored XSS attack is a persistent XSS attack, and this is one of the most advanced attacks, and at the same time it is actually used a lot. All right, so in terms of how you can mitigate this, you can mitigate this in terms like of a web application firewall. That is one of the simplest things you can do, and of course sanitizing the inputs. Right, I'm gonna show you the last example, but that's not gonna be on the damn vulnerable web application. Just go into your browser, and we're gonna go to Acunetix. They have like a demo website where we can test out the stored the DOM-based XSS attacks. Right, so that's gonna be on HTTP, and then test html5.vulnerableweb.com. Right, so we have this security suites, and like I said, today we're going to be just testing out the DOM-based XSS attacks. And DOM-based XSS attacks are kind of like the reflected attacks and the stored attacks. The difference is DOM-based is specifically like on the client side, and at the same time it utilizes code in the client side, like document.body, document.title, and so on and so forth. Right, so for example, they have this redirect somewhere, right, and they actually just like to shorten things off. I'm just gonna go where that redirect is because I'm not really sure. I think it was in the input search. We can test that out again. If like you forget, you can definitely first of all try to identify it yourself. So you can just go into the source of the page, and as you can see as well over here, that input is not sanitized. So let's try and search anything in it. So test, and then press next. So as you can see right now, it's just giving us like a popular page. That is cool, right? So let me just go into the redirect URL quickly. So it just redirects you to popular page 3 or whatever page basically you are trying to get to. All right, so let's actually try and inject something over here. All right, so that's gonna be hashtag, then redirect, then the URL we're gonna inject inside the URL, that is gonna be JavaScript, then alert, and then DOM XSS. This is the example they have actually on their website to test their website, so you can check that out. And again, like I said, it uses document, so they're going to use document.domain over here. And let me just copy this if anything wrong goes, so we can just save time and test this out again. So yeah, as you can see right now, we kind of like did a alert again using the URL over here. injected like JavaScript code using the document.domain. Alright, so this is basically the 3 examples for the types of cross-site scripting. These are pretty simple. Of course, again, to mitigate from this, you can use web application firewalls as well as like sanitizing the website, the user inputs, and basically any input that exists in the website, and as well as using something called the content security policy. If you don't know what that is, content security policy is basically where you can like define in your website which sources that you can use like assets from. For example, like scripts, you can just make the JavaScript that your website run just from your inner server, not from anywhere else. That's for example. So as you can see, that's what I basically said. Also as well, of course, use like encryption for your cookies and try to not show your cookies like simply as they were shown over here. So that is basically everything, and that's everything basically in terms of XSS attacks. If you guys want a more advanced lab of how you can actually hijack a user session using like the user session at the beginning of the video, we can do another video on this, or you can check out the article by Pen Testing Tools where they have 10 examples of XSS attacks. Right, so I'll see you guys in the next video. This was Anguiryu, and peace, you guys.